I saw what it's like to go through cancer, and I don't want anyone to go through it. And the thing is with cancer, like some of it is genetic, but genetic is just one thing, right? Like your nutrition and lifestyle is what makes a big difference. And so that's why I started coaching people with like nutrition and fitness to live that type of lifestyle that would like greatly reduce your risk of getting cancer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. On today's episode, we have my friend Maxime Sigouin. Sigouin.
Almost.
Sigouin.
That was good.
Sigouin.
That was good.
Okay, I said it right like 3 times in my head, and it just came out awkward. But anyway, Maxime is the founder of Fit Vegan Coaching, and he is a former powerlifter, bodybuilder, and Ironman competitor. He is on a mission to help the world thrive and disease-proof their body by eating plants. So you and I have a very similar mission.
Yes.
Love to hear it. Man.
Yes. Yeah. And that's how we connected when we first met. Yeah. So I'm happy that we're on the same mission and same trajectory.
Yeah. You and I met in Tulum.
Yeah.
Last year. Kind of random, not so random. You hit me up in the DMs and said, I'm here in town. Would love to meet you. And you caught me on a good day.
And, I was like, and you answered back. And then,
I was answering back.
And then you were meeting up with a friend that's a friend of mine. And then we ended up at the same dinner table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that was quick.
Yeah. It was literally the same day.
Yeah, literally. So, really glad that we met and connected, and we've developed a really cool friendship since last year. It feels like it's been, I feel like I've known you a long time, which is cool. You know, even since we first met, we got pretty deep pretty quick.
Yeah. Tulum does that.
Tulum does that. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm getting too old for small talk, man. Like, if I want to get to know you, like I want to get to know the real person. I hate surface level conversations. And I get it. It has its utility and has its place at times, but I don't know. I feel like the older I get, I'm just ready to, like, if I'm going to talk to you, I want to like really connect with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really picky with my energy. That's why my circle is small. I just go deep, and some people don't like it. I'm like, okay, well, great. It was nice. It was nice meeting you.
Well, not everybody's ready for that or like used to it. It can be very jarring. Somebody's like asking some really personal questions and like, what is this?
Like, who are you?
Yeah, who are you?
I just met you.
What are you trying to like leverage or gain from me?
Yeah,
you know. But anyway, let's talk about you for a second, because you have quite a fascinating story, and I think it's really important that we start from the beginning. That way it gives context to who you are now and how you got to where you are. Mm-hmm. And for you, that started in Canada, right?
Yes. Originally Canadian from Quebec. So I'm French. That's why Sigouin is so hard to say.
Sigouin.
Yeah.
All right.
And I started like, grew up in Quebec, lived on a farm. So we had our own chickens, cows, geese, horses. Like we had 140 acres of land. We would like typical in a nice way, like redneck family, where we would just hunt and kill our own chicken for meat, grab our own eggs for breakfast. And just saying, I'm vegan for 9 years now. So, just growing up as a farmer, we used to make fun of vegans all the time. And then got into high school, got into bodybuilding and powerlifting. Was bullied when I was younger because I was really tall and skinny. I was just referring myself as like a spaghetti noodle. I was 6'4", like 140 pounds.
Damn.
Yeah, I was really skinny.
Thin, yeah.
Yeah. I was made long. And then I got into bodybuilding because like big guys, I need to be like really confident, gain some muscle. So I went up to 240 pounds and became a power lifter. Got to the point where I could deadlift my Honda Civic, and I was so proud of that. That was like a big accomplishment. And then fell into bodybuilding, got really lean for that. Then did a bulk after, got recruited for high fashion modeling. My friend was a fitness model with an agency, and one day he just brought me there. And she saw me with like my big chubby, when you're bulking, like a big chubby cheeks.
Yeah.
And she's like, I see something under those big chubby cheeks. Like, try losing some weight. We'll see what we can do. So lost some weight. It led me to do some photo shoots, got some contract starting in Toronto, and then ended up being in Milan, Italy for Fashion Week, and worked a little bit for 3 months there. Then went to Germany, went to New York for some work as well. New York was rough because I didn't make that much money. So I had my moments where, because I really wanted to succeed there, I had to sleep
Mhm.
on some park benches for a few nights. I would go to, that was a crazy time. I would have to go to like the buffet at nighttime because I only had money for
Mhm.
one meal. So I would just load up for like one meal and then I would just go to bed. And
Wow.
then I would go do castings the next day. And so I try to work my way through there. So it was a very interesting time. And
Was that like the goal was to be like a high fashion
yeah, I
like
was make a living out of it.
yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
had at that point I had sacrificed all my muscle mass to be able to do
Mhm.
modeling because I was 240 pounds, and then the agent
Yeah,
was like,
it's
lose weight.
way too big
Yeah, you don't fit in
for that.
anything.
Yeah.
So I actually like that's how I became vegan. I went on Google. I'm like, what diet's gonna allow me to get skinny? And then vegan showed up.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and they're like, vegans are skinny and weak. I was like, I don't care if I'm weak. I just need to be skinny. So I went vegan. I stopped lifting. I just did cardio, and I did
Mhm.
like vegan the wrong way. I was just not wrong. I was just like raw vegan. I was just eating
Okay.
fruits. So I dropped 80 pounds in a year. Lost a ton of muscle mass. I was purposefully working to lose muscle.
Yeah.
And then yeah, got skinny enough that I could work in Italy and
you-
all those places.
Were you talking about it at that time? Like, were people asking you, what are you doing to lose weight? And you're
Yeah.
like, well, I'm vegan. And they're like, oh, yeah, of course, you're losing weight. We're concerned about you. Like, what was the
Yeah.
what was the reaction there?
Well, someone made me a shirt of like losing gains because I at the gym like there's a bodybuilding community and I was a part of that, and then I just
Yeah.
flipped direction.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you're a weirdo. Why are you losing all of that?
Yeah.
And then it obviously gave a bad reputation to veganism, but I needed to do it for the goal that I wanted to accomplish.
Yeah. That's like that's a hard thing to let go of. Like
Yeah,
from being a skinny guy, like being like just naturally skinnier
Yeah.
growing up, and then putting out all this layer of muscle and protection, from that skinny guy, and then
yeah.
having to like consciously let go of that so you can pursue modeling. What was that like? Was it a hard
It's the,
decision to be like, okay, I'm just gonna have to lose everything that I've worked for the last few years?
it was the best gift I could have ever given myself because I had wrapped up my identity so much into me being this big muscular guy. And then I never took the time to develop my personality. I was just like the big guy that would
Yeah.
count his almonds and weigh his food.
You like
And-
prided yourself on that and kind of
Yeah.
clung to that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
who I was. I was a big muscular guy.
Mhm.
And then when I started losing weight, I was like, I can't talk to people. I'm socially awkward. And I was like, I need to develop my personality. And that's when I started kind of getting out of my comfort zone and kind of developing who I am today. So it was the best gift I could have ever given myself was losing that muscle and detaching myself from that image I was so clinging on to.
Mhm. What did you tell yourself when people would come up to you and be like, "You're looking skinnier"?
Yeah.
Like-
I would just tell them like I'm doing it because I wanna do modeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've always been like very straightforward about it. Like I'm doing this because I want to accomplish this goal. I've
Yeah.
always been very goal driven. So I would just be like, this is the next thing I'm doing. And then I would just go for it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So we're back in New York, and you are eating one meal a day at these buffets, sleeping on park benches, going to casting calls.
Yeah.
Really trying to break out in that industry. What happens next?
I literally run out of like money and only had money for a train back home, which my parents had to help me pay for.
Why weren't you getting booked? Were you just weren't a fit for the brands or for the designers?
No, because I was going as my own. I was independent. And
so
I
you
was
didn't have an agency.
I didn't have an
Okay,
agency. So I
okay.
was doing casting for agencies and for jobs.
Okay.
And so when I was on the train back home, I
What
got
happened to your homegirl?
What?
What happened to your homegirl that said she was gonna hook it up with some modeling?
It did work out.
Okay.
That New York did work out.
Okay.
Yeah, New York was rough. And on my way back home in a train, I got a call from my agent from like my mother agency.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, the last agency you saw wants to sign you. And I was just like crying in the train. I was like, I'm so tired from like sleeping outside and not having eaten food.
Mhm.
And I was super stoked and signed the contract, came back home, and then just decided to do something else. I just stopped modeling.
Really?
Yeah.
So after you got signed, you didn't really.
I didn't actually end up going back to New York.
Okay. Wow.
Just got really tired of the industry.
Mhm.
I was back home, had some time to like think, and I very rebellious person by nature. I really hate rules. I have it tattooed on me that I don't like. I like to create my own rules in how I want to create my life. And you can't do whatever you want with modeling. Like if you do something to your face, your hair,
Yeah.
to your facial, that you have
You're
to
like a
run it by them.
mannequin. Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're just like a walking mannequin for them.
That's basically what it is.
Mhm.
And I love smiling, and I have crooked teeth. And like, yeah, you can't smile for high fashion, and your teeth are crooked. And I was like, you know what? screw you guys. I'm gonna build my own thing so that one day I will be on a magazine and I'll be there because of what I've built, and I can smile all I want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the path that I took, and that's kind of when I started like blogging and YouTube and building this brand that I have now.
Mm. So that was back in Vancouver, or
That was back in Quebec. So
in
after New York,
Quebec.
I went back
Okay.
to Quebec to my parents because I
Okay.
was just so broke. I had nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So then you had to reorganize like your life and
Yeah.
what you were doing next because you were done with modeling
Yeah.
and you started Fit Vegan, or
No,
how did
so
that work?
so from there, I got into. I was like, I'm trying to work for myself, and I got into network marketing,
Oh,
which
okay.
my parents had warned me about. But I got into network marketing. Actually, had tremendous amount of success, and it made some really good money. And there was a conference in Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
so I flew to Vegas for the conference, and I was like, well, I'm in Vegas. I'm gonna go to LA. I've never been to LA before. So I went to LA and then decided to quit network marketing. It's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to do something else. And stayed in LA as long as I could. Legally, as a Canadian, you get 6 months. And so when the 6 months was coming up, I looked at my bank account and I had $100, and that's all I had left. And I couldn't work legally here because I was
Yeah.
Canadian. So I just went on like Google Flights, figured out the cheapest flight I could afford to get out of here, and it led me to Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Vancouver at one point for a road trip like many, many years ago. But yeah, took a flight to Vancouver, stayed on a friend's floor for probably a few months until I was like, what do I want to do next? Right? What do I want to create from here? And then started working, and then met my ex at that time, and that's where I met her.
Mm.
And that's kind of when this like next chapter of my life started.
Yeah. Wow. Oh yeah, Vancouver's not cheap either. Vancouver's like
Yeah, it's really expensive.
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
a pretty expensive city. It's
yeah,
beautiful, but
yeah,
definitely you got to pay a pretty penny to live there. At
yeah,
least I don't know, maybe in like the areas that I've been, like the downtown area.
yeah.
It's like
It's just
really,
pricey overall, like
yeah,
way
just
more
really
than Quebec.
pricey. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going. So now you met your ex Jen,
yeah,
right? And um, obviously I know this story, and it's very personal and powerful, and I'm like really
hmm
appreciative of you coming on and sharing.
hmm
Um, so let's get into that.
yeah.
So
So
how did you guys meet?
she hired me because I
Okay.
was broke, and she had her own events company. So she hired me to be a waiter. And then we just started connecting, and then eventually started dating. And within 3 months of us dating, she got diagnosed with cancer.
Mm.
And
What kind of cancer?
breast cancer.
Breast cancer.
Yeah. And so, yeah, for me, I wanted to be there with her because I loved her. And so that basically, we were together for 4.5 years of battling that. And that was just a crazy journey of ups and downs. And yeah, and that's what
Wow.
really got me to dive deeper into like plant-based nutrition and the beneficial effects it had on the body and reducing inflammation. And she was a vegetarian, went vegan, and that made a huge difference on her
Mhm.
health levels. And unfortunately, it was enough. Like she passed away. But yeah, it was a crazy time of my life that I'm extremely, in a non weird way, like grateful for, because
Mhm.
it taught me a lot of beautiful lessons. It got me to spend the last years of her life with her, and it made me the man I am today.
Wow. Wow. What was that? What was that like being there to support someone whenever they got that news? Did she tell you right away, or was
I was
she
in.
having health complications before? Or
She had a lump, and she went to go and check it out, and then the doctors call you and like, hey, you need to come in. So you kind of know something's happening.
Mhm.
And that's kind of, I was in the office basically when it happened. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, how you? I like. I can't even begin to imagine what that experience is like, and I have so much like compassion and empathy for people that have to go through that. Like, what was her reaction, and what did you say to her in that moment?
Um, she actually laughed.
She laughed. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Wow.
laughed, and I guess everyone has their coping mechanism as to how they deal with news like that. But she was like, "No, I got this," and that's honestly the attitude that she kept the whole way through. Is I got this, and I was like, "Cool, well, I'm here with you. Let's do
Mhm.
this."
Mhm.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, and I wasn't even feeling the pain of what it was to go through it. So,
Mhm.
can't imagine what she was going through.
Mhm. So then after that, you guys started going through treatment, or exploring different options, or
Yeah.
what was the process like after coming home with that news?
Yeah, so for her, she wanted to heal holistically, so she didn't want to do chemo or radiation or surgery. She didn't want it to affect the quality of her life after. And if that meant that her life would end because of that decision, she was okay with it. She just wanted to make sure that there, to her, she saw it as like a 50-50. If she did do the chemo and all that, like 50% she would make it, but her quality of life would not be the same after.
Hmm.
And if she didn't do that path, then she could live and her quality of life would be good after. And so she's like, if I'm going to take that risk, I want it to still have a good quality of life after.
Mm.
So she went on that path, and then it was just a discovering what treatments to do, because it's a very non-documented process and it's a very expensive process, which is something that I wasn't aware of going into this, and she wasn't obviously not thinking of, because you're just thinking of like what's going to heal, what's going to
Hmm.
make a difference.
Even were her approaches or the ways that she wanted to heal outside of the coverage of the Canadian
Oh yeah,
healthcare system?
absolutely. Yeah,
So she would have been
everything.
covered to get
Do chemo.
chemo.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and she
Sure.
chose to do the
Yeah,
alternative
exactly.
approach.
Yeah, she chose the alternative approach, and because that's what aligned with her. And
Hmm.
I don't know. For me, it's not my life. It's not me to decide of like, hey, you should go in this direction, because what do I know about it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so obviously respecting her decision of what she wanted to do, and just supporting fully as much as I could,
Hmm.
and then just figuring out things along the way. Just going back, like I would do things so much different. Um, we when you're in that situation, in that state, you're just like treatment, 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 treatment. But like treatment is money, 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 money.
Hmm.
Spending a lot of money that I didn't have, was borrowing money, was trying to make things happen, like fundraisers and doing all that. But looking back, I would just test so that we would know what treatments were helping.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we're doing treatments and then doing tests later on, it was like, oh, that was actually hurting. That wasn't helping. I was like, oh, that was like 15 grand. It was just like,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
wasn't actually hurtful, you know? So yeah, it was a very challenging and big process to go through, and
Hmm.
and learn from.
What was the like? What were those modalities? Were you seeing like a nutritionist to like clean up her diet, what she could and couldn't eat? Were there certain foods that she had to avoid, or um, I don't know what
Yeah.
those like healing modalities are for the like more holistic way for to treat breast cancer.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but we do a lot of hyperbaric chamber oxygen therapy, oxygen IV, because cancer hate an oxygenated environment. So just throwing more oxygen in it. Um, what else would we go do? I don't remember the names of all of them. Obviously, going vegan, focusing on whole food, plant based food that
Hmm.
is alkaline. She would actually eat less protein, because that's like her protein was her cancer was hormone dependent.
Yeah.
So it kind of changed how she fueled her body a little bit.
Hmm.
But a lot of it was just like oxygen therapy,
Hmm.
infrared sauna, just things that would benefit her body like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Hmm.
think of like all the names of them. Some of them are really weird, and I
Yeah.
just had a list of them. I was like, oh, this is what we need to do this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So what was that? What was that like? What were you learning and discovering, being there as like kind of taking that role of, finding us like a treatment, like a working treatment for her. And then how was that affecting you as well? I'm curious.
Yeah, it was finding the road, was just trying to find documentation and studies that have been done on different types of treatment for that specific type of cancer that was hormone dependent. It was like HER2 positive.
Hmm.
Um, and so it was just like constantly searching and trying to find what would work best, and then testing. But it's the things, some of these tests cost like $5,000 to do. And it's like, well, we don't have $5,000, but we have two. So with that two, do we wait to have enough money to do a test, or do we do treatment with that two, which
Hmm.
delays you doing that test?
Hmm.
And so it was just constantly this ball game of trying to do treatments to alleviate the pain versus being able to test all the time. And on my end, it was just like the most confronting thing I've ever had to go through, because it wasn't about me anymore. And my whole life was just about me. It was like, I want to travel. Like, I was like, I want to do modeling. And I just
Hmm.
stopped it because I wanted to. And then I traveled and I just stopped because I wanted to. And then it was like, oh, this is not about me anymore. It's about someone else. And there's an actual life at stake. So I can't be as selfish as I was and like fill my cup, basically.
Hmm.
So it just how I dealt with stressful situation. It was, yeah. I discovered what anxiety is. I discovered what depression is. I There's moments where I just want to jump off a bridge, because I was like, I can't deal with all of this. Like, it's a
Hmm.
lot.
Hmm.
And thankfully, I had amazing people in my life to just help me navigate the whole scenario. Someone that had gone through something similar. with a family member, and that person like really made a huge difference in me being able to stay there.
Were there like support groups that you like seeked out, or was it just your relatives and close friends?
Um, there was no relative and close friends. It was just her and I.
Okay, just you
Um,
two.
yeah, it was just her and I. Her family, I don't know. Everyone deals with stress differently. So her family
Hmm.
was just busy, and they would support whenever they could, but just on a day to day basis, it was just her and I,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Wow. So this went on for 4 years,
yeah, 4.5 years.
4.5 years,
Yeah,
and then what? How did she transition to the other side?
yeah,
Like, what was that like?
yeah. It was she just had a hard time breathing,
Hmm.
and we actually just ended up going to the hospital, and ended up that 90% of her lungs were filled with fluid. And basically they trying to like drain her lungs, and there's a whole process to it. But she ended up having like three heart failures, and then
Hmm.
the third one got her. Yeah, it was one of the hardest moments in my life. To like, I was in the room the whole time for each three heart failures, like whatever,
Hmm.
cold blue, and everyone running in, and yeah, it was really
Hmm.
crazy time. Gave me
Hmm.
honestly like had the PTSD for it for a long time.
Hmm.
It just I didn't know what PTSD was until someone was like, "Oh, it just plays in your head and you can't press pause." I was like, "Oh, I definitely have that." Like it all
Hmm.
just hit me. It stopped because of an amazing ceremony I did a few months ago. That was a game changer. But yeah.
Wow, man. Wow, I'm just can't imagine what that must have been so hard to go through, just thinking, I'm also in like a relationship with
Hmm.
Bianca, someone that I care about so much, and to have to I can't even begin to imagine how much strength you would have to go through that with someone, and then on the other side of that. Um but it sounds like, she taught you quite a bit
Hmm.
about, who you are as a man, and how much you could show up for somebody that you may not have thought yourself to be capable of before,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I didn't know what it meant to show up for someone or
Mhm.
create space for someone. So definitely know what that feels like now, and definitely learned that you need to fill your cup. I didn't fill my cup for 4.5 years, and it took me a really long time to refill it and understand what I even meant.
So
All right.
go into that. I'm curious. What does fill up your cup mean to you?
So I'll just say that like I tried different things. I was like, I'm just gonna go and like move to Tulum. That's big reason I went to Mexico was to spread her ashes, but going to Tulum was like for me. I just want to go somewhere beautiful that I always wanted to go. Um, and like I was like, I'll get a massage. Like I'll go play basketball because I like playing basketball, and did all of the different things that I thought meant filling your cup, and none of it filled my cup. It filled my cup. And then when I was in Tulum, I was in Tulum for a long time, and obviously I had my current business, and I was just working all the time. I was like, I'm in this beautiful place with palm trees behind my window, but I'm
Mm.
sitting on my computer just working. I was like, Tulum sucks. I don't want to be here. And then I connected with Julian, and then I connected with you and Josh and everyone else, and then my cup started filling. And I was like, huh, this is interesting. And then there's a few days where I wasn't hanging out with you guys. And then I was like, my cup is depleting. And then I spend more time with you guys, like my cup would be filling. I was like, cool. So like the location doesn't actually matter. It's the people that are around you. Are the people around you like filling you up or draining you?
Mm.
And that's when I started realizing like location doesn't really matter. And it's like the people you hang out with, or those people filling up your cups, or people that like bring you up. And so I learned that like me getting massages, playing basketball, doing all that fun stuff, like didn't really fill my cup.
Mhm.
I just need to spend time with quality people.
Mhm.
And that's why when like it was Bianca's birthday, I was like, I'm coming to LA. I'm just gonna move to LA because location doesn't matter. So I don't care about Tulum anymore.
Mhm.
And then I came here and just yeah, it's just been a crazy journey of being surrounded with amazing people.
Yeah, I was just in Tulum again a couple
Hmm.
weeks ago, and I was there, and Tulum is always such a beautiful place. It is really magical, and
Yeah.
even especially for people going, there's like it always attracts people that are really
Hmm.
healing from something, or they're seeking some type of spiritual evolution or um, connection. Whether it's with themselves or community or nature. And I had this realization that I was there with some friends, and even though the scenery and everything was so beautiful, it's like home to me is anywhere where my nervous system feels the most relaxed.
Mhm.
And that can be a place, that can be, I can be by myself looking at a sunset, or it's around the right group of people. Like it's location independent. It's
Yeah.
like around the right people, like that can really feel like home. So
Yeah.
I completely resonate with you on that note as far as like, you want to be around people that fill you up
Yeah.
and inspire you or call you forward to be the better, more expressed version of yourself, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
I gained a lot of freedom in that just from being here. Being like around like you and Chris and like Justin and that whole crew. And
Hmm.
obviously meeting Ivy brought a lot more like of filling my cup. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's been an amazing time since I've been here for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what is the next thing that kind of you're working on now after going through those whole like that whole transition, and how was that infiltrated, like that experience with Jen? How is that integrated into what you do now?
Yeah. It's just allowing me to separate my business and professional life. And I manage things in a very different way because I was 22 when I first started dealing with this
Mm,
with cancer, and that was kind of like when people just do stuff on their own, like have their own personal life, and I didn't really get to do that, just because obligations were different. And so now just really taking the time to build my personal myself and my personal relationship with my new partner and how I want that to look with the experiences that I've had. And then from a business standpoint, just focusing on that impact. Like I saw what it's like to go through cancer. And I don't want anyone to go through it. And the thing is with cancer, like some of it is genetic, but genetic is just one thing, right? Like your nutrition and lifestyle is what makes a big difference. And so that's why I started coaching people with like nutrition and fitness to live that type of lifestyle that would like greatly reduce your risk of getting cancer. There's so many other diseases in the world, and I don't want anyone to get sick with anything. But like
mhm.
just from my experience from seeing what happens when you go through cancer, whatever people think is worth it, of like I see all the comments of like, but bacon, but like burgers, and like once you're sick, you don't really care about that stuff. Like
Yeah,
actually nothing else matters.
yeah,
Money, house, cool shit, just you just want your health back. You'll do anything to have your health back. And so just helping people not be in that position.
hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, let's be honest. If you ever lost a loved one and or somebody you cared about, somebody you knew, and if they were in the hospital bed and you had this knowledge that you believed would help them add
Hmm.
longer, healthier, happier years to their life, would you give them this information and say, "Hey, I think this could really help,"
Yeah.
with all the evidence to support it, right?
Yeah.
Like without a doubt, you would offer that information to them. And what's interesting is that when you ask somebody that same question, like if you are so willing to offer this information to somebody else in hopes of them having a happier, healthier life, why wouldn't you do that for yourself too?
Hmm.
Because the people in your life deserve you to be around for longer and have those years, like for you, your grandchildren or even your children or your parents and your grandparents. Like,
Yeah.
time is so precious, it's so valuable. And ask anybody in a hospital, they'd give like anything.
Everything.
Nothing else matters except
Yeah.
getting back your health.
Yeah.
No amount of money,
Yeah. Because you
it
can
doesn't.
rebuild all that.
Yeah.
Right. It's all you can rebuild all that because you have the knowledge, you've done it before. But health is such a fragile thing to rebuild. And it takes so long. Right. As much as I'd love to like snap my fingers and like bam, you're healed. Right. Like, or you
Hmm.
have the knowledge and it's you have the ripple effects of it being implemented for 5 years. I would love to do that. I would if I would have a superpower, like that would be my superpower.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely like a thing that needs to be implemented early on.
Yeah. And there's also a misconception that health is static. It's like once you achieve health, you've achieved it
Yeah.
and you've got it. And
Yeah.
it's so dynamic. It changes. It's like in flux always. So it's like what you do every single day is what ultimately will have the most impact on your longevity and your overall health. So it's the tiny things that matter. Those tiny little decisions that add up
Yeah.
and either are hurting you or nurturing you and helping you thrive. So,
Yeah.
diet is one, exercise is another, managing stress levels, practicing meditation or mindfulness to help, just find more peace and
Yeah.
less dis-ease within the body, because
Yeah.
I mean mental health too, it manifests physically somewhere in the body,
Yeah.
and that can very well lead to things like disease and cancer as well. So I'm fully on board with you. So what are some of your techniques, or what do you do on a daily basis, or what do you coach your clients on, um, in that regard?
The question is to keep it simple. All right. Move your body in a way that you enjoy, right? Obviously, if you're trying to improve body composition, strength training is a big one. But and if you're not a fan of strength training, like do a minimum of it, but and then go do other stuff you like, right? Like hiking, cycling, rollerblading, whatever you like doing. Nutrition, keep it whole food plant based, right? Just the basic. If you can eat primarily whole food plant based, that's gonna make the world of a difference versus if you're eating 10% versus 90%. You talk about that compounding effect, like on a
Mhm,
daily basis, you're either compounding in either direction towards good health or bad health,
mhm,
right? There's no like today it's not going anywhere. It is
mhm,
going somewhere. Which one are
mhm,
you compounding towards? Right. And then stress management, like talk like meditation, cold showers for our members. We have like 50-year-old moms taking cold showers and just like I would never take a cold shower and they're
mhm.
crushing it and they love it.
Yeah.
And then sleep. Those are big ones. Right. But keeping it simple because people always think that there needs to be a super complex thing that they need to do for it to actually work.
Mhm,
But it's not a do something, get an immediate result. It's a compounding effect over 10, 20 years.
mhm,
Right? If you smoke one cigarette, it might not have any effect from it. But if you smoke cigarette every day for 20 years, and in 20 years, you're going to have an effect from it.
mhm,
And so just doing those daily, small, simple things that are going to pay so much dividends in the long run.
mhm. Yeah, I've recently been getting into the cold, not cold showers, but I do have a cold plunge,
Yeah. Yeah. The
and
next level.
yeah, I was gonna ask you what your thoughts are on that, because like I do it, and it is tough. Even
Yeah.
like on some days it's way harder than others. I'll get in
Hmm.
my cold plunge and last a minute.
Yeah.
Sometimes some days I'll last 3 minutes, but
Mm.
it really is a function of my state of mind
Yeah.
going into it. So if I don't do my breathing going into it, I'll last far less,
Yeah.
versus if I go into it with a certain intention, and I'm present, and I'm not anxious about what I got to do the rest of the day. It's just like I'm fully present with the
Hmm.
moment, and I can go for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is just the building up that mental fortitude and the practice, because any day you take off, it becomes that much harder to get yourself to do it. Right.
Yeah. I I eventually get a cold plunge because I used to have one in Vancouver. I
Yeah.
got a big chest freezer that I sealed and I was
Yeah. You kind of
running every
modified it. Yeah.
yeah. So you just break like kind of Julian. You break the ice and you sit
Yeah.
in it. I for years I used to do breath work before I stepped into it, and I just stopped. Now I just go in it, and obviously cold exposure has a lot of benefits from a health aspect, reducing inflammation and all that. But the only reason I ever loved cold shower was for the mental aspect of mental resilience that you're building from it. Like there's two components, and I thought to my members, like the two parts I love about a cold exposure is you have to step into something uncomfortable and you have to be okay with stepping into something uncomfortable. So you're just training yourself to be able to do that. And then the second is sitting and staying in something uncomfortable. When your body
Hmm.
wants to get out, you're fighting it to not get out.
Hmm.
And for me, that's just like 4.5 years of being extremely uncomfortable all the time was just like sit in it, stay. How can you achieve stillness in a moment of pressure and chaos? And so I love cold exposure because it's a controlled manner to train your brain to be able to do that. Like
Hmm.
you don't have to go through cancer with your partner, but you can sit in a cold tub for 3 minutes and train your brain to be able to sit in uncomfortable situations.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's like, it's hard to do though. It's hard. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not just with cold showers. I mean, that's anything. It's even weightlifting.
Yeah.
Many people even just feeling that initial burn, that
Yeah.
lactic acid buildup in your muscle whenever you're training weights is enough for people to be like, I'm done. This is
Yeah.
the last rep. But really, the mind wants to give up far before the body. And if you can train your mind to sit with that and accept the pain and not stack on mental anguish and
Yeah.
resisting it, then you'll be surprised at how much you could actually withstand.
Yeah. I definitely want to say something to that.
Go for it.
Definitely taking those opportunities like training and cold shower and all these hard times to build that mental resilience. Because whether we want to or not, all of us at one point are going to go through a super hard period in our life, right? Maybe just financial issues, family issues, health, whatever. We're all going to go through a really hard time. And the thing is, when something hard hits you in life, there's no way out. You're 24/7 in it. So, like a cold shower, you're done after 3 minutes. You're done after 2 minutes. Training, you're done after you're done. You're not sitting in it for 24 hours. So for me, I just like to train myself. Like the whole training for life, that's basically what it is. Like train yourself for life to be in those uncomfortable situations. Because when life comes and hits you or something happens, there's no way out of it. You're in it 24/7 and there's no escaping it. And the people that do try and escape it through like drugs, alcohol, develop bigger issues because they can't sit in that uncomfortable situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I love this hard stuff that is a controlled environment where I get to strengthen myself for when life throws me a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what other hard things do you do to build that resilience or allow your psyche to prepare yourself for those uncomfortable
Those are the
moments?
two big ones. And like
Okay.
running is another one.
Mhm.
Cause I did Ironman. I hate running. I absolutely hate running, but I would just do it because I hated it. And so whenever there's something that comes up that I don't want to do, I just go and like trying to catch myself and do it because I don't want to do it.
Mhm.
Right. And it's not like for like, oh, I'm motivated or I'm disciplined. It's like, no, I'm training my brain to do hard shit that I don't want to do. Because eventually one day, or like I feel like I've already lived it, I had to do shit that I didn't want to do all the time. I didn't want to wake up at 2 in the morning to her screaming and me having to deal with it. Right. Like
Mhm.
it's not something that anyone wants to deal with, but you just, if you train yourself for that, you know, not that I'm wishing that on anyone, but it's just like life at one point is going to hit us. And so I'd rather for me to be ready for it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so true. Like we can't choose whenever those things happen either. It's always
Yeah.
at the least convenient time,
Always.
right? It's never a good time to go through something like that or for life to throw you a curveball. But it's the same can be said for. It's so funny because I say this about training programs too. Whenever people are like, "Ah, it's just not the right time," I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's never gonna be the right time
Yeah.
to start changing up your eating habits or going to
Mhm.
the gym more or setting aside time to do something that's uncomfortable or outside of what you're used to doing. And it
Mhm.
requires effort and it requires planning and sacrifice. And like it's never a good time or else you would already be doing it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like there's a part of you that wants to remain in the comfort always.
Mhm.
And then there's like a deeper part of you that wants to get to like a more evolved place, whatever that looks like for somebody.
Yeah.
But there's that gap in between that you're gonna have to bridge somehow, and that's with effort,
Yeah.
right? It's like it takes that sacrifice
Yeah.
often. So,
Time is such an interesting concept in that people don't think that they have the power to create it. Right. Like again, very extreme situation, but so I feel like I'm an extreme person. Gun to the head, you have to work out 4 days a week. You'll find time because it's now a priority. You're now creating the time to do that. Time that you're spending scrolling on TikTok and Netflix is now magically gone, and now you have time to work out, right? And so you, if and also like I tell people, like think back over the last 6 months of your life. Was there or 12 months of your life? Was there ever a time where it was a perfect time for you to start?
mhm.
No one can ever find. I've asked the question hundreds of times. I've never had someone be like, "Oh yeah, like between this time, it would have been the perfect." It's
Yeah,
never.
let me
There's
check my
always something.
calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's always something happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember whenever I was competing in bodybuilding, I was still working full time as an engineer,
Yeah.
and then, they would have these shows that would be in, like, California, which is local California local for California is, like, huge. It's like
Yeah.
takes, like, 16 hours to drive from the top of California to the bottom of it, or
Yeah.
at least 12. And, I would remember just picking a show and be like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna fit my whole life around this day
Yeah.
and make sure that I'm gonna be ready for it." Like, I
Yeah.
know I'm gonna have to work. I know I'm gonna have to go on vacation or go visit my parents, and I'm gonna have to be on prep as I'm traveling.
Mhm.
And when you really kind of work backwards from that goal and say, there is no negotiating this, like, I'm
Mhm.
going to have conviction to stick with the thing that I set out to do, then you really do it. It's like,
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. There's a rule where it might be Parkinson's rule, where it says however long you give yourself to
Yeah.
accomplish a task is the amount of time it takes.
Yeah.
So if you give yourself 3 months, you're going to take 3 months. If you
Yeah.
give yourself 2 weeks, you're going to take 2 weeks. And there's realistic goals within that,
Yeah.
but it's the same concept. Like, we always give ourselves way too much when we are probably way more capable of being more productive or more efficient with our time, or even more potent with how we focus our energy on
Yeah.
whatever it is that we want to accomplish.
Yeah, and I definitely realized that once I started like growing my team and managing people. I was like, "Hey, we need to get this task done," and then it would be like 3 weeks. I'm like, "Oh, where's is this done?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, you got 24 hours," and they did it in
Yeah.
24 hours. I was like,
Yeah.
"You could have done that 3 weeks ago."
Yeah.
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 So like seeing other people go through that, I was like, "Oh, do I am I doing that for myself?" And so yeah, I get really short like deadlines now. It's like, "Oh, get this
Mhm.
done."
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost like with I do the same thing now. I'll give myself a much shorter deadline than I believe I can accomplish. And even if I don't hit it, which
Yeah.
most of the times I do, like find a way, but even if I don't hit it, I'm like way ahead of the original deadline that I would have given myself.
Yeah, you did like 90% of the work
Yeah.
already. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that could also be applied to a lot of things in life,
Yeah.
you know, but it's just it requires that effort on your part. So
Yeah.
how do you get there? I mean, you got to find your why. You got to find
Yeah.
out why you're doing it. What's the intention behind the reason why you want to do the things you want to do, and
Yeah.
get really clear on that.
That's like I think I lied earlier about the superpower I would want to have. That is a superpower I would want to have. I would want to have the ability to trigger that into people that like, oh, I need to change now. Oh, I need to make this a priority. Because like I call it like the cancer moment, the heart attack moment of like you have this a big event that happens that causes you so much pain. You're like, oh, something needs to shift. Right. And sometimes it's funny, heart attack sometimes is not enough for people to shift. But like being able to psychologically change that and trigger that into people, that would be a superpower we would want to have because then you can help
Hmm.
anyone change.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, like the why aspect is huge. I like to go a darker road and like ask enough questions for them to realize that people are in enough pain that they need to change. Because sometimes we just like to lie to ourselves that like everything is like pink and fluffy and beautiful. And then when you dig deep, they're like, I'm really miserable and uncomfortable in my body. I don't have energy. I have no sex drive. Like I'm not happy. I was like, well, is it really like that pink and fluffy where you don't want to change? So yeah, just like love Tony Robbins. There needs to be enough pain for people to change, or else people don't change.
Hmm.
If something appealing was to cause people to take action, it would a long time ago.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I feel like that always comes in the right moment, like when people are ready
Mhm.
for that. Like when the student is ready, the teacher will reveal himself or itself, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I always find that to be true, which is like it's kind of like a paradox of thinking everything happens like when it's supposed to.
Mhm.
But if you think about life that way, like everything's happening in divine timing.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have happened at any other time because you weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
So I think just asking yourself those questions frequently of like, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Is
Mhm.
this really in alignment with who I want to be and what I want out of life? Is this fulfilling? Is this part of a bigger mission that I have? Or am I just going through the motions every single day and watching the calendar days go by? And the
Yeah.
next thing you know, it's next year and I'm in the same place and feel stuck, like still feel stuck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It happens too often.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's happened to me enough times in my life to want to actually make a difference and show up differently.
Yeah.
But you just have to get really clear on that why. So what do you tell people? What do you tell clients about how to find your why? Because it's always something different when I talk to my clients. I'm like, okay, yeah, having a goal to lose 5 pounds is great. Like that's a
Mhm.
very great measurable goal. But what do you believe losing 5 pounds is gonna provide? Like
Mhm.
what is the feeling that you're after there? Right. And a
Yeah.
lot of people want freedom, they want confidence, they want to feel at home, they want to feel safe in their body, they don't want to have constant inflammation or trouble moving around or feeling uncomfortable. So like
Yeah.
what is that? Like how do you allow people to recognize that?
Just dig deeper as to why the why is there. Because it's always a very superficial answer. I want to feel comfortable. I want to look sexy at the beach or do whatever. But like, why is that there? And like fundamentally, a lot of it will come down to like the need to be loved because something happened before, right? Like either like no names, but I just had a member that like she's like, I want to lose 20 pounds because I want to feel confident. Like my clothes don't fit me well. I'm like, okay, like why? And we just kept digging deeper and deeper, and it just ended up being that like when she was younger, her dad was so overweight that he couldn't like play with her and be with her, and she doesn't want to do that, be like that for her kids. I was like that's a strong reason for you to do this.
Mhm.
That's a strong reason that when you want to eat the opposite of what you're supposed to be eating, or when you want to skip a workout, that's going to keep you going. And so I just like technically just asking why until you can't answer why anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So like the deepest level of why.
Yeah. And then eventually you just can't answer why that is because that is the reason.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like similar to in engineering. We had this thing called root cause failure analysis, and
Hmm.
you would get to the if we'd have a failure um, earlier than anticipated, then we'd like do this investigation. And normally you could ask why 5 times, and you would get to the root
Yeah.
most times.
Yeah.
So that could be a great exercise for somebody for their own whys. Just ask yourself why 5 times, and probably get a lot closer to the
Actual
root
reason.
to the root of the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you always give like fluffy answers. I do that too. And then I try to catch myself. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's not the real reason why I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what's going on next for you? What are you most excited about right now?
Um, Honestly, man, just building an empire and a team of people that are going to be able to impact the world in a greater way with plant-based nutrition. Right. Like I shared, like I started a second coaching company and there's potentially a third one coming. And there's just a lot of cool projects coming in the space of helping people spread their mission in the plant-based world. And so for me, just ultimately, like, however it's done, and obviously like ethically because we're plant-based, but however it's done that more people can be reached with a plant-based message, like I want to be a part of that. And my skill seems to be like building businesses from scratch. And so I'm just trying to obviously continue coaching because I love it, but helping people build their own thing so that they can have that further impact, which I am being a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just expanding on that mission of being able to help more people thrive, disease-proof their body, and just live their best life.
Mm-hmm. So to help amplify other people that are in the same space as you.
Yeah.
Yeah. To making even more of a efficient impact.
Yeah.
You know, just helping one person that goes on to help hundreds.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that
because
way.
I can only help so many people myself.
Mm-hmm.
And like you and everyone else, you guys all have access to different types of people that get to be impacted, that connect with you. Because I understand that not everyone is going to relate with me and my story and who I am as a person, so they won't necessarily listen to everything. But some people are going to listen to you, and they're going to listen to other people that are in the vegan space. And so,
Mm-hmm.
how can I amplify all of you guys' voice and have that greater impact? Because those people wouldn't have otherwise listened to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I think that it's interesting too when people, especially in the fitness space or particularly in the vegan space, there's
Mhm.
a few coaches that I can think of, like maybe a handful that are doing their own kind of like individual coaching program.
Mhm.
And I personally never feel like it's like competition with anybody. Like everybody
Yeah.
resonates with different coaches. Everybody, most people select a coach that they see parts of themselves
Yeah.
in that
Absolutely.
coach and resonate with them in that way. So I always feel like there's space for all of these different like vegan coaches, and like we're all pretty much friends
Mhm.
at this point.
Yeah.
Like we know each other or of each other, and we're friends for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think it's just cool to like have that camaraderie within like the space, because we're all on the same team
Mhm.
eventually. Is like, yeah, there's an element of financial gain as well. Like obviously we have to make a living doing what
Yeah.
we do, but it's like it's aligned with our purpose and our mission. So that's just cool. I was having this conversation the other day. I like meeting other people that are on the same team as me.
Yeah, it's nice because everyone's doing it differently,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm not training anyone to get like super jacked, and so that's not my jam. But I know there's another vegan coach. There's a bunch of vegan coaches like you do it, right? Want to get some muscle? You work with you,
Hmm.
right? For me, it's not my thing. You look at me. I'm built like an Iron Man, right? Yeah. So everyone has their own like skill and talent, and like you said, people that they're going to resonate with. Like, and I don't see it as competition. Like for sure, there's financial gain to be had, but then that financial gain, if used wisely, can help impact more people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool, man. Anything else you want to talk about before we close this conversation?
No, man, just massive thank you for having me on. Like, been obviously known you since Tulum and chatting back and forth and listening to the episodes, and then yeah, just really excited and blessed to be here.
Hmm. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. It was cool to have Chris on the other day
Hmm.
and just have like a friendly conversation about
Yeah,
friendship. And you're obviously like a new friend for me since last year too. And
yeah,
it all happened perfectly. Obviously, I believe that, but you know, just from answering a message that
hmm,
you extended to me, and I feel like that can also be said for like so many other people. Like you just never know who's coming into your life and for what reason and what comes from that. So it just don't write people off
Yeah.
like so many of us do, me included. I'm also guilty of it. Like I said, you caught me on a good day. I can't possibly answer
Yeah.
everybody's DM that sends it to me, but like a really great friendship came from it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a lesson in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
But anyway, man, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna put all of Maxime's socials below, where to find him, where to follow him, his coaching program, and everything too. You also have a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which gotta have you on for.
Fit Vegan Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd fit right in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So be sure to give him a follow. And if you found this conversation interesting, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review. It really does help with the podcast exposure. And as always, sending you all lots and lots of love and light.